The cargo ship Endless Dawn moved through the dark space between stars. It was an old ship, not fast, not pretty, but it worked. 12 different species lived and worked inside its metal walls. They carried medicine to outer colonies and brought back rare metals. Simple work. Honest work. Corey stood at the navigation controls. He was a Velthari, tall and thin with gray skin and 4 eyes that could see in almost complete darkness. He had been flying ships for 30 years. He thought he understood people, human and alien alike. But there was one crew member he could not understand at all. Her name was Yuna. She was the ship's medical technician. A young human woman, maybe 25 years old. She had black hair that she kept tied back and dark eyes that seemed to look through things rather than at them. She was small, even for a human. She weighed maybe 50 kilograms. She had no weapons. She had no combat training that anyone knew about, and she terrified Corey's in a way. He could not explain that it was not anything she did. That was the strange part. Yuna was quiet. She spoke only when necessary, and even then she used few words. She moved slowly, carefully, like someone walking through a room full of sleeping predators. She never raised her voice. She never showed anger or fear or excitement. She simply existed, silent, still, waiting. Chorus had asked the captain about her once. The captain, a fat Morvian named Deck, had just shrugged his massive shoulders. She does her job, he said. She never causes trouble. What more do you want? But Chorus wanted to know why his instincts screamed at him every time she walked past. He wanted to know why his 4 eyes tracked her movements even when he tried to look away. He wanted to know why every predator species on the ship watched her the same way. Thal, the Droken engineer, was 2 meters tall and weighed almost 200 kilograms. His people had been apex predators on their home world for millions of years. They feared nothing. Yet Corey's had seen Thal step aside to let Yuna pass in a narrow corridor. He had seen the massive engineer's muscles tense when she was near. When Corey's asked him about it, Thal had looked uncomfortable. I do not know, he admitted. She is small. She is weak. She has no claws, no fangs, no weapons. But something in my blood tells me she is dangerous. Something old. Something that remembers. Corey's understood. He felt it too. The alarm came on the 47th day of their journey. Red lights flashed. The ship's computer spoke in its calm, dead voice. Warning. Unidentified vessels approaching. Warning. Weapon signatures detected. Corey's ran to the bridge. Through the viewing screen, he saw 3 ships coming toward them. They were fast and ugly, built for one purpose only. Raider ships. Pirates, Captain Deck said. His voice was steady, but Chorus could smell his fear. They must have been hiding behind that asteroid field. We cannot outrun them. The crew gathered on the main deck. 12 beings from 12 different worlds, all of them afraid. Chorus looked around and saw the security officer checking his weapon. He saw Thal clenching his massive fists. He saw the others huddling together. He saw the headers. Prey animals hoping for safety in numbers. And he saw Yuna. She stood alone near the medical bay door. She had not moved since the alarm started. She had not spoken. Her face showed nothing. No fear. No worry. No expression at all. She was completely, perfectly still. The raider ship connected to their airlock with a loud clang. The door opened. Armed figures poured in. They were Kethrani, a species known for violence and cruelty. Their leader had scars across his face and eyes that had seen much death. Corey's expected them to go for the captain first. Or maybe the security officer with his gun. Or Thal, the obvious physical threat. They did not. 3 of them moved straight toward Yuna. They pushed past everyone else. They ignored the gun pointed at them. They ignored the massive Drogon. They went directly to the small, silent human woman who had not moved or spoken since they arrived. "This one," the scarred leader said. His voice was rough and cold. "Secure this one first." Chorus watched in confusion. Why her? She was the smallest person in the room. She had no weapon. She was not resisting, but the raiders handled her like she was made of explosives. 4 of them kept their weapons pointed at her at all times. They bound her hands with 3 sets of restraints. They kept their distance even as they tied her, and through it all, Yuna did not speak. She did not fight. She did not even seem surprised. She just looked at the scarred leader with those dark, empty eyes. And Chorus saw something he never expected to see. The raider leader, a man who had killed hundreds, who had built his life on fear and violence, took a step backward. He was afraid of her. Chorus did not understand. He did not understand how a small human woman who never spoke and never moved could make hardened killers afraid. He did not understand why every predator instinct in his body screamed that she was the most dangerous thing in the room. But as they dragged her away, Yuna turned her head. Just slightly. Just enough to meet his eyes. And in that moment, Chorus understood one thing clearly. The raiders had made a terrible mistake. The raider ship was called the Iron Fang. It smelled of blood and fear and rust. Yuna noticed all of this as they pushed her through its dark corridors. She noticed the nervous way the guards kept looking at her. She noticed how they held their weapons too tight, how their breathing was too fast. They were afraid. All of them. And they did not understand why. The captain's name was Voss. He was Kathrani, like most of his crew. His skin was dark red, almost black in the dim light. Scars covered his face and arms. One of his eyes was missing, replaced by a metal ball that glowed faintly green. He had been a raider for 23 years. He had killed more people than he could remember. He had faced soldiers, monsters, and machines. He had never felt fear. Until now. Yuna stood in front of him. Her hands were bound. Her feet were chained. She was smaller than any of his crew, weaker than any of his prisoners. She had done nothing threatening, but something was wrong with her. Voss could feel it in his bones. Something ancient in his blood was screaming at him to run, to kill her, to get away before it was too late. "What are you?" he asked. Yuna looked at him with those dark, empty eyes. "Medical technician," she said. Her voice was soft and flat. "Cargo ship Endless Dawn. Do not play games with me." Voss stepped closer. His instincts screamed louder. He ignored them. "I have captured thousands of beings. I know what prey looks like. I know what predators look like. You are neither." Yuna said nothing. "You are something else," Voss said. "Something that should not exist. Tell me what you are." "I am human," Yuna said. "Nothing more." Voss hit her. Hard. She fell to the floor but made no sound. When she looked up at him again, her expression had not changed. There was no anger, no pain, no fear. Nothing. That scared him more than anything. On the Endless Dawn, Do-hyun organized a rescue. He was the ship's pilot, a Korean man in his 30s. He had worked with Yuna for 2 years. In all that time, he had never seen her smile, never heard her laugh, never watched her show any strong emotion, but he had also seen her save lives. She had steady hands and a calm mind. She never panicked. She treated broken bones and bleeding wounds with the same quiet efficiency. The crew trusted her completely. Now she was gone, and Do-hyun would not leave her with those monsters. "We cannot fight them," Captain Deck said. "They have weapons, soldiers. We are just cargo haulers." "Then we do not fight," Do-hyun said. "We follow." We wait. We find an opportunity. Thal stepped forward. His massive body blocked the light. I will come, he said. The small human. She is strange. But she treated my burns when the engine fire happened. She did not have to. She chose to help. Others volunteered. Soon Do-yoon had a small team. Not warriors, but people who owed Yuna something. Corey's asked the question no one else would ask. What do we actually know about her? Where did she come from? Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. She was found 7 years ago, he finally said. On a colony called New Bizan. There was an attack. Alien predators. 42 colonists died. She survived? She was the only one. Do-hyun looked at the others. She walked out of the wreckage without a scratch. She was 17 years old. The rescue team said she was not crying. She was not screaming. She was just walking, calm, silent. No one spoke for a long time. On the Iron Fang, Voss made a decision. He did not know what Yuna was, but he knew she was valuable. Someone would pay good money for her. Someone would want to study her. Until then, he needed to keep her secure, but he did not want her near his crew. She was doing something to them, making them nervous, making them jump at shadows. One of his best fighters had asked to be transferred to a different ship just to get away from her dot, so Voss put her in the deep cells. The ones reserved for the most dangerous prisoners. Her cellmate was a Droken named Reddick. He was a war criminal. He had killed entire families for pleasure. He was 2 meters tall and 300 kilograms of muscle and rage. The prison guards on 5 different planets had tried to hold him. He had escaped from all of them. Voss expected Reddick to hurt her. Maybe kill her. It did not matter. She was strange and wrong, and he wanted her gone from his thoughts. Have fun, he told Reddick through the cell door. Then he walked away. Inside the cell, Reddick looked at the small human woman who sat in the corner. She did not move. She did not speak. She did not seem to notice him at all. He took a step toward her. Then he stopped. Something was wrong. The air felt thick, heavy. The shadows in the corners seemed deeper than before. And the woman was looking at him now. Looking through him. Into him. Reddick had never felt fear in his life. Fear was for the weak. Fear was for prey. He was the ultimate predator. He was death itself. But something in those dark, empty eyes made him want to run. He did not run. He was Reddick. He was afraid of nothing. He took another step forward. Yuna watched him. She did not blink. The guards found Reddick dead the next morning. He was lying on the floor of the cell, his eyes wide open, his face frozen in an expression of pure terror. His heart had stopped. No wounds, no poison, no sign of violence. He had simply died of fear. Yuna sat in her corner, exactly where she had been before. Silent. Still. Unmoved. When Voss heard the news, his hands started shaking. He had put a monster in a cage with what he thought was a helpless victim. He had been wrong about which one was the monster. Far away from the Iron Fang, on a space station that floated at the edge of known space, a scientist named Jiwoo was studying something that should not exist. She was Korean, like Yuna, but older. Gray touched her black hair. Lines marked her face from years of thinking hard thoughts. She worked for the Galactic Federation as a xenobiologist. Her job was to understand how different species thought and felt and lived. For the past 3 years, she had been studying one question. Why did predator species fear certain humans? It started with reports. A human soldier who walked through enemy lines untouched because no one could bring themselves to attack her. A human prisoner who made his guards go insane just by being near them. A human child who survived. Alone in the wilderness while predators twice her size. starved rather than approach her. Jiwoo called them null presences. And she was beginning to understand what made them. Every living thing broadcasts signals, not with words or sounds, but with chemistry and energy and subtle vibrations. Prey species broadcast submission. They say, without speaking, I am not a threat. Please, do not hurt me. Predator species broadcast aggression. They say, I am dangerous. Stay away or die. This is how nature works. This is how hierarchies form. This is how predators know what to hunt and what to avoid. But some humans broadcast nothing at all. Complete silence in the frequency of fear. A void where instinct expects information. To a predator's ancient brain, this reads as something terrifying. Something so dangerous that it has no need to warn others. Something that exists outside the rules of nature. Predators attack these humans first, not because they want to, but because they have to. Every instinct demands they eliminate the unknown threat before it eliminates them. But the more they try, the more afraid they become. The silence becomes louder. The void becomes deeper. Until finally, they break. Jiwoo had studied 12 null presences so far. All of them shared one thing in common. Trauma. Not ordinary trauma. Not the kind that leaves scars and bad memories. Something deeper. Something that changed them at a fundamental level. Their nervous systems had been damaged in ways she could barely measure. The parts of their brains that broadcast fear and submission had simply stopped working. They still felt fear. Jiwoo had confirmed this. But the fear stayed inside. It never reached the surface. It never became a signal that others could read. They had become invisible to the threat matrix. And somehow, that made them the most threatening things in the galaxy. On the Iron Fang, Voss was losing control. It had been 3 days since Revik died. 3 days of Yuna sitting in her cell, doing nothing, saying nothing. 3 days of his crew falling apart. They jumped at shadows. They fought each other over small things. They whispered about the human woman in the deep cells. Some said she was a demon. Some said she was a weapon created by enemy governments. Some said she was death itself, wearing human skin. Voss ordered them to stay away from her. They obeyed gladly. No one wanted to go near the deep cells anymore. Even the gods refused to deliver her food. They left it outside the door and ran, but staying away did not help. The fear spread like a disease. It infected everything. Voss found himself waking at night, sweating, certain that something was standing in the corner of his room. He found himself checking his weapons constantly. He found himself looking over his shoulder at nothing. She was doing this. Somehow, without moving, without speaking, she was doing this. On the 4th day, his second-in-command came to him. His name was Krell. He was the biggest Kethrani on the ship. He had killed more people than Voss. His hands were shaking. We have to get rid of her, Krell said. I do not care about the money. I do not care about selling her. She has to go. She has to die. Something. Anything. Voss wanted to agree. He wanted to take his gun and put a beam through her head and end this nightmare. But something stopped him. If he killed her, would she truly die? Or would she just become something worse? The rescue team reached them on the 5th day. Do-yoon had tracked the Iron Fang through 6 star systems. He had used every trick he knew, every contact he had, every favor anyone owed him. Now he floated in a small shuttle next to the raider ship, waiting for his chance. Thal had found a way in. An old maintenance hatch that the raiders never watched. It was small, almost too small for his massive body, but he squeezed through anyway. Inside, he found chaos. The corridors were empty. The lights flickered on and off. Somewhere in the distance, he heard screaming. He found a raider hiding in a storage closet, rocking back and forth, muttering to himself. "The quiet one," the raider kept saying. "She does not move. She does not speak. But she sees. She sees everything. She is inside my head." Dahl did not understand. But he kept moving. He found the deep cells. He found Una. She was sitting exactly where Voss had left her 5 days ago. Her hands were still bound. Her clothes were dirty. But her eyes were clear and calm, and when she saw Thal, she did something he had never seen her do before. She smiled. Just a little. Just enough to be real. "You came," she said. "We do not leave our own behind," Thal said. He broke her chains with his bare hands. "Can you walk?" Yes. They moved through the ship. They passed raiders who did not even try to stop them. Some were crying. Some were fighting each other. Some just stared at nothing. Their minds broken by something they could not see or understand. Una walked through them like a ghost, silent, still, untouchable. When they reached the shuttle, Do-hyun was waiting. He looked at Una. He looked at the chaos behind her. He did not ask what had happened. Some questions were better left unasked. As they flew away from the Iron Fang, Chorus sent a single transmission to the raider ship. "We are taking back what is ours. Do not follow us." No one followed. Jiwoo received the report about the incident 3 days later. She added it to her files. Another null presence. Another predator broken. Another piece of a puzzle she was still trying to understand. What had happened to these humans to make them this way? What had they seen? What had they survived? And what would happen when the galaxy realized that humanity carried weapons in their trauma? The endless dawn was quiet. Most of the crew had gone to sleep. Only Do-hyun remained awake, sitting in the medical bay, watching Una clean her wounds. Her injuries were small. Cuts and bruises. Nothing serious. But Do-hyun noticed how carefully she moved, how precisely she placed each bandage. Every motion was controlled, deliberate, like she was always aware of exactly where her body was in space. "Thank you," she said without looking up. "For coming. You would have done the same for us." She paused. Then she nodded. "Yes, I would have." They sat in silence for a while. The ship hummed around them. Stars moved past the window, cold and distant and eternal. Finally, Do-hyun asked the question that had been burning in his mind for 2 years. "What happened to you?" Una stopped moving. Her hands rested on her lap. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she looked at him with those dark, empty eyes, and he saw something he had never seen in them before. Pain. Old pain. Deep pain. Pain that had become part of her. "New Bizen," she said. "You know about New Bizen. Only what the records say. Colony attack. 42 dead. 1 survivor. The records do not say enough." Una looked at the window. At the stars. At nothing. They cannot say enough. There are no words for what happened there. She told him. New Bizen was a small colony on a small planet at the edge of human space. 200 people lived there. Farmers, teachers, children. Una's family had moved there when she was 12. Her father worked in the fields. Her mother taught at the school. Her brother Taiho was 2 years younger than her, always laughing, always getting into trouble. Her best friend was named Minji. They had grown up together. They shared everything. Secrets, dreams, the belief that the universe was full of wonder. The strike came when Una was 17. They were predators. Pure predators. They had no civilization, no technology, no language. They were just hunger given form. Claws and teeth and the instinct to hunt. But they were clever. Clever enough to travel between stars. Clever enough to find colonies far from help. Clever enough to hunt the most dangerous prey in the galaxy. Humans. They hunted by fear. Their senses could detect the chemical signals of terror from kilometers away. The more afraid you were, the faster they found you. The more you ran, the more you screamed, the more you tried to hide, the stronger the signal became. Yuna remembered the first attack. The screaming, the blood, the sound of claws tearing through metal walls. She remembered grabbing Minji's hand and running. She remembered her father shouting for them to hide. She remembered her mother's face as the door closed between them. She never saw her parents alive again. 18 hours. That was how long the attack lasted. 18 hours of hiding in a ventilation shaft barely big enough to fit her body. 18 hours of listening to the screams get fewer and fewer. 18 hours of Minji crying beside her, shaking. BRODCA knee fear like a beacon. The Shrike found Minji first. Yuna watched. She watched them drag her best friend from the shaft. She watched them kill her. She watched until there was nothing left to watch. And something inside her changed. The fear did not stop. It grew stronger. So strong that it should have driven her insane. So strong that she should have screamed, should have run, should have died like everyone else. But the fear had nowhere to go. Some part of her brain, some ancient survival mechanism, had simply closed. The fear stayed inside. It filled her like water filling a glass. It pressed against the walls of her mind. But it never spilled out. The Shrike passed her hiding spot 6 times. They could not sense her. To their hunting instincts, she appeared dead. Just another piece of meat with no signal, no broadcast, no life dot, so they moved on. Again and again. Looking for prey that felt like prey. When the rescue team arrived 18 hours later, they found Yuna walking through the colony, stepping over bodies, moving through blood. Her face showed nothing. Her voice said nothing. She was empty, hollowed out. Everything she had been was gone, burned away by fear that had no escape. They called her lucky, a miracle survivor. They did not understand that luck had nothing to do with it. She had become something new, something that should not exist. A predator without threat, a survivor without signals, a human who had gone so deep into fear that she had come out the other side. Doan listened to all of this without speaking. When she finished, the silence stretched between them like a living thing. "The Drogon on the raider ship," he finally said. "The war criminal. Did you kill him?" "No." Yuna's voice was flat, calm. "I did not touch him." "I did not need to? Then how?" 3 days. She looked at her hands. Small hands. Human hands. Hands that had held her dying mother. Hands that had covered her ears while Minji screamed. 3 days in a cell with something his instincts could not explain. 3 days of his ancient brain screaming at him that he was trapped with something more dangerous than himself. His heart gave out. His mind broke first, but his heart followed. "You did nothing. I existed." She met his eyes. Sometimes that is enough. Do-hyun thought about this. He thought about the raiders who had fallen apart just from being on the same ship as her. He thought about Corys and Thal and how they stepped aside when she walked past. He thought about predators who had evolved for millions of years, learning to recognize threats, learning to survive. And he thought about a 17-year-old girl who had watched everyone she loved die, who had pressed herself into a metal tube and forced herself to feel nothing, who had become something so strange that the universe itself did not know how to classify her. "I am sorry," he said, "for what happened to you. Do not be." Yuna looked at the stars again. "What happened made me useful. It gave me purpose. The galaxy is full of predators, full of things that hunt and kill and destroy. I am the answer to all of them. But the cost was paid a long time ago." Her voice was soft now, almost gentle. "I cannot get back what I lost. but I can make sure others do not lose what I did. I can stand between predators and their prey. I can be the silence that breaks them." She stood up. Her wounds were bandaged. Her body was tired, but her eyes were clear. "Thank you for listening," she said. "Thank you for wanting to understand." Then she walked away, silent and small and terrifying, to find what little sleep her memories would allow. Word spread through the underworld like fire through dry grass. There was a human who drove predators insane. A weapon that did not need to fight. A presence that broke the strongest wills just by existing nearby. She traveled on a cargo ship called the Endless Dawn. She was small and quiet, and worth more than gold. Some wanted to capture her, study her, learn her secrets. Some wanted to kill her, end the threat before it grew. Some simply wanted her gone, erased from the universe. Forgotten. They formed a coalition. Pirates and slavers and warlords. Species that had never worked together before. Species that hated each other. But they all agreed on one thing. The silent human had to die. 30 ships gathered at the edge of the outer rim. 30 crews armed with weapons that could crack planets. 30 captains who had built their lives on fear and violence. They tracked the Endless Dawn through 3 star systems. They cornered it in a dead zone, far from any help. Chorus saw them coming. 30 dots on his screen, closing fast, weapons already charging. His 4 eyes went wide. His hands started shaking. "We cannot run," he said. "We cannot fight. We cannot hide." Captain Deck was already praying to gods he did not believe in. Thal was checking the engines, knowing it would not matter. The crew stood frozen, watching death approach. Only Yuna moved. She walked to the bridge with her slow, careful steps. She looked at the screen. She looked at the 30 ships. She looked at the faces of her crew, the people who had come for her, who had risked everything to save her. "Give me an escape pod," she said. Corys turned to her. "What?" "Launch me toward their flagship." "Just me. No weapons. No plan. That is suicide," Doyen said. He had followed her to the bridge. His face was pale. "They will kill you the moment you arrive." "No." Yuna's voice was calm, certain. "They will not." "How do you know?" "Because they are predators." She looked at him with those dark, empty eyes. "And predators cannot resist me. They will take me aboard. They will try to understand me. And they will break." The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at her. This small woman. This quiet woman. This weapon that did not need to fight. 30 ships, Corey said. Even if you affect the flagship, the others will still attack us." "Watch," Yuna said. "Just watch." They did not want to do it. They argued. They shouted. They begged her to think of another way. But there was no other way, and they all knew it. In the end, they put her in the escape pod. Do-hyun held her hand before the door closed. "Come back," he said. "Promise me you will come back." "I promise," she said. And for the first time since he had known her, he believed she meant it. The pod launched. It drifted toward the flagship, a tiny metal seed floating through the vast darkness. The enemy ships tracked it. They scanned it. They found nothing but one small human woman with no weapons. They let it dock. The flagship was called the Crimson Wrath. Its captain was a Kathrani warlord named Garin. He had killed more humans than any other being alive. He collected their skulls as trophies. He wore their bones as jewelry. When the escape pod opened, he was waiting with 50 soldiers. All of them aimed their weapons at the door. All of them were ready to fire. Yuna stepped out. She did not speak. She did not move. She just stood there, small and still and silent, looking at them with those dark, empty eyes. Garin felt it immediately. The wrongness. The void. The absence where a signal should be. His ancient instincts screamed at him to run, to attack, to do something, anything. Kill her, he ordered. No one moved. I said kill her. Still nothing. His soldiers were frozen. Not by fear, exactly. By something deeper. Something that bypassed thought and went straight to the primal brain. They could not pull their triggers. They could not look away. They could only stand there, caught in the gravity of something they could not understand. Una started walking. She walked past the soldiers. She walked past Garn. She walked into the ship like she owned it. No one stopped her. No one could. The breakdown started within the hour. Crew members began fighting each other. Some claimed they saw ghosts. Some said the walls were breathing. Some locked themselves in their rooms and refused to come out. The ship's systems malfunctioned as panicked operators made mistake after mistake. Goran tried to rally his people. He screamed at them. He threatened them. He killed 3 of them with his own hands. It did not matter. The fear was everywhere now. In the air. In the walls. In their blood. By the 3rd hour, he could not find his own bridge crew. They had scattered, hiding in corners, gibbering to themselves. The mighty Crimson Wrath was dead in space, its engines cold, its weapons dark. Garn found Una in the captain's quarters. She was sitting in his chair, his throne, the seat from which he had ordered the deaths of thousands. "What are you?" he whispered. His voice was broken. His body was shaking. "What did they make you?" "They did not make me," Una said. "The universe made me. Evolution made me. Survival made me. Impossible. Humans are prey. Soft, weak, prey. We were prey once." She tilted her head slightly. "Then we learned to survive. We learned to adapt. We learned to become something new. This is not adaptation. This is humanity." She stood. She walked toward him. He backed away until he hit the wall. "We are the species that runs toward danger. The species that thrives on trauma. The species that turns its wounds into weapons." She was close now. So close, her eyes held his. He could not look away. "I watched my family die," she said. "I watched my best friend get torn apart. I spent 18 hours drowning in fear, so deep it should have killed me. And when I came out the other side, I was something new." Goran's heart was racing. His vision was blurring. His ancient predator brain was screaming at him that he was going to die, that this thing in front of him was death itself. "The galaxy calls humans prey," Una said. "But prey does not break predators. Prey does not walk through armies untouched. Prey does not sit in your chair while your ship falls apart around it." She reached out. She touched his face, gently, almost kindly. "We are not prey," she said. "We are the thing that predators should have feared all along." Goran's heart stopped. He slid down the wall and died with his eyes wide open, frozen in an expression of pure terror. Una walked to the communications panel. She broadcast a single message to the other 29 ships. "The Endless Dawn is under my protection. Leave now or join your flagship." The ships fled. Every single one. Predators from a dozen worlds, warriors and killers and monsters. Running from one small human woman who did not speak or move. The rescue team found her sitting in the captain's chair, surrounded by the dead, silent and still. Do-hyun took her hand and led her back to the Endless Dawn. In her quarters that night. Alone at last, Una allowed herself to shake. The fear was there, as it always was, pressing against the walls of her mind, demanding to be released. She did not release it. She never would. The fear was her weapon now. The silence was her shield. But sometimes, in the dark, she remembered who she had been before. A girl with a family. A girl with a best friend. A girl who laughed and cried and felt things without consequence. That girl was gone. What remained was something else. Something useful. Something terrible. She closed her eyes. She let the memories wash over her. Taiho laughing. Minji smiling. Her mother's warm hands. Her father's strong voice. "I miss you," she whispered to the darkness. "I will always miss you." Then she straightened her spine, emptied her expression, and became the silence once more. The galaxy had predators. Humanity had her.